a great host gathered, an alliance forged of hope, bound by friendship, and spurred forth by a love for the free lands of Middle-earth.
Humans, elves, and hobbits.
Unlike any the Witch King had yet faced,
Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out the Angmar War, the Witch King's 675-year-long war in Arnor, uploaded by Realms Unravelled here on YouTube. Yes guys, this is recommended to me by our Prefect Hobbit for this Friday's video, so big thank you Hobbit for that recommendation, of course. He said he recently came across this channel, Realms Unravelled, and apparently he does a really fantastic job with his lore and his content. So I figure, yeah, let's check him out. Hobbit recommended it, of course, and I'm more than willing to always check out some more Lord of the Rings content. I do like Lord of the Rings. I do like learning more about it. I am very much a noob when it comes to it, but I do like learning more about it. The Angmar War, the Witch King's rule. I'm pretty sure that took place in the Third Age, if I recall correctly. We saw it briefly, like, talked about from start to finish, but again, 675 years whenever we're talking about the Lord of the Rings universe. You're always talking about a long period of time in between events or during events, and that's one thing that the movies don't really portray as well, but obviously they're movies. They have to do what they can given the runtime that they have. Of course, you can't have a 12-hour long movie, you know what I'm saying? I understand that, of course, but it's one thing that doesn't really get across as well, the time frame, just how much time passes in the Lord of the Rings, which makes sense, you know, given of course some of the races in Lord of the Rings, just how long some of the races live, especially you're talking like hundreds, thousands of years potentially, you know what I'm saying, if all goes well for them, you know. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to learn some more about this, the Angmar War in depth, from start to finish. I know this is an hour-long video, so yeah, without any further delay, I'm excited to get right into it. If you guys enjoy the reactions, hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, and of course leave your recommendations down in the comments below. We're of course liked up, we got captions on, quality's 1080, and without any further delay, let's get right into it, guys.
Before the days of the War of the Ring, where the legions of Mordor sought to break the power of Gondor in the south, there was another war far to the north. Here, the Witch King of Angmar led a relentless campaign against the Dunedain of Arnor. For here in the north lay another great and powerful realm of men. In order for the forces of Sauron to triumph over the west in the years to come, Arnor must first be destroyed. And so, from his stronghold of Khand Dûm, Sauron's most deadly servant, the Witch King of Angmar, orchestrated his great campaign, one of steel, blood, and dark sorcery.
Okay.
So join me as we dive deep into the lore of this captivating and much overlooked period of Middle-earth's history, brought to life more vividly than ever before with previously unseen artwork and animated battle maps. Experience every dark twist, every surprising turn, and every battle fought in the Angmar War.
Wow, okay, first off, right off the bat, sorry to pause so quickly here, but I have to say, guy has a really good voice right off the bat, and animated artwork, as well as battle scenes, so you can actually see, and of course, like, we've seen Nerd of the Rings do that a little bit as well, but this looks animated a lot more so, I want to say, you know, so far, just from what we're seeing. This looks really cool already. I'm really into this already. Yeah, like this looks like quality work, I have to say. Let's keep going, guys. Let's see what it has. Like, this certainly doesn't look no half-baked or nothing like this. Definitely go check this guy out for sure. Wow.
In the Second Age, Elendil led the faithful exiles of Númenor to Middle-earth. Here, in the year 3320, Elendil planted his banner, and with the wisdom of a mighty lord of Númenor, he founded a new kingdom, Arnor, the realm of the faithful. Yet, Elendil was not alone in his charge. Far to the south, his sons, Isildur and Anarion, landed upon other shores.
Gondor, yeah.
They established the realm of Gondor, standing as a proud sibling to Arnor. And so, the faithful, descendants of Númenor, set their roots into the soils of Middle-earth. Of Númenor he spoke.
And not to pause again right off the bat, but again, it's so just, again, the time frame, right? It's so crazy to me. This is still just the Second Age this happens in, right? They come here. You know, it's like, holy shit, like you're talking so much time, you know what I mean? And you just don't get that. I'm going to stress on that. You just don't get that sense from the movies, either the Lord of the Ring or the Hobbit. You don't get the sense of time that passes, but so much time, man. Oh my God. But it's just cool. It's cool to see all this develop. And again, it's realistic. It makes sense. Like, I feel like Tolkien was a very, very smart guy. He was a professor, I'm pretty sure, right? You know, he knew how shit worked, and he visualized how long shit would take, you know, for them to do this, especially given their magic and given everything that they do have. But still, you know, I just love, like, as weird as it is to say for the Lord of the Rings, the realism in that sense. You know what I mean?
Set their roots into the soils of Middle-earth.
It's not like they came here and in 2 years they set up a kingdom.
Spoke its glory,
you know what I mean?
And its fall, and the return of the kings of men to Middle-earth out of the deeps of the sea, borne upon the wings of storm. Then Elendil the Tall and his mighty sons, Isildur and Anarion, became great lords, and the North Realm they made in Arnor, and the South Realm in Gondor above the mouths of Anduin. In Arnor, the Dunedain forged a prosperous realm of men and built wondrous cities, such as the Jewel of the Kingdom, Anuminas, which lay on the southeast shore of Lake Nenuyil, near the source
I think we've heard of that a little bit too.
River. Yet the founding of Arnor was but one thread in the tapestry of Elendil's fate. For he, along with his sons, Isildur and Anarion, marched their forces to Mordor to wage war upon the great evil of their age, Sauron. Together with the elves, under their high king, Gil-galad, they laid siege to Barad-dûr. For 7 long years, the last alliance of men and elves endured the onslaught of the defenders, until at last Sauron himself came forth and was slain on the slopes of Mount Doom by Elendil and Gil-galad. But the price of victory was high, for both Elendil
I really like this
Gil-galad
animated artwork. This looks really cool.
by Sauron before he fell, and Anarion too had lost his life during the siege, leaving Isildur, Elendil's eldest son, to carry the weight of the high kingship alone.
Yeah,
Thus,
it's big
as the
shoes
Third
to
Age
fill.
dawned, Isildur became the high king of both Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south. But fate was unkind to Isildur, and the new king's reign.
Also, again, sorry not to just pause on this artwork, but great looking artwork. That looks super sick. Broken sword, he's got the ring, Mount Doom in the background. Like, dude, it looks sick. You know what I mean? This looks amazing. Great artwork being used here. This is great for a lore video. It really gives you like the visualization, the sense of what you're looking at. You know, I really enjoy this so far.
Reign was to be brief. Just 2 winters had passed when he too was struck down, ambushed by orcs in the Gladden fields. His body, along with the one ring he had cut from Sauron's hand, was lost to the river Anduin.
Right.
The kingship would now pass to Valandil, Isildur's youngest son, still a child when his
Even
father's
bigger
flame
shoes.
was extinguished. When he came of age, he would not claim the kingship of Gondor, which had been ruled successfully by his cousin Meneldil for a number of years. Consequently, the realms of Gondor and Arnor would hence...
So is that the case of like, would that be kind of like a regent that kind of like assumes position of king in a sense, right? Now, that did happen, like, historically speaking, right? And even regents would assume power for themselves. I don't know if this was, like, underhanded or if it was the case of, like, bro, you're literally a kid and, like, shit's going to fuck right now. You know what I mean? Like, we need a wiser counsel right now than you, unfortunately, you know? And that's not to say you can't be king eventually, but right now, no. You know what I mean? No. You know? Somebody let me know a little bit more about that.
...of years. Consequently, the realms of Gondor and Arnor would henceforth be divided. But the division of the realms of men was not to end here.
So I'm guessing divided,
and the
it was
of the north would
probably a little
soon
underhanded.
seal their own dark fate.
The Schism of Arnor. Oh my. Oh God.
For 8 generations, the line of Elendil held the realm of Arnor together. But the strength of the Dunedain waned over time, and tensions rose among those of the royal line. In 861 of the Third Age, King Eärendil, the last ruler of a united Arnor, passed from the world, and his death marked the unraveling of the kingdom.
Oh, dude, they're using this sound. Oh,
would
this
now
music.
splinter and fracture as the sons of Eärendil quarreled over the throne.
I've heard this in like so many 40k like Amber King vids and shit.
In place of one, each with its own pride, each with its own hunger. To the northwest, where the winds whispered of ancient power, Arthedain took root. Here ruled Amlath, Eärendil's eldest son and true heir. Southward, beneath the shadow of the Great Road and the flowing Brandywine, lay the realm of Cardolan, where its lord gazed north with wary eyes, ever mindful of their cousins in Arthedain. To the east, nestled between the jagged weather hills and the swift-running Bruinen, rose the kingdom of Rhudaur, ever restless, ever striving for power. There was often strife between the kingdoms. These lands were home to the mighty Dunedain. The chief matter of debate was the possession of the weather hills and the land westward towards Bree.
Okay.
And in this fragile balance of power, there was one thing in particular that Cardolan and Rhudaur both desired above all else: Amon Sul, Weathertop. Standing proud upon the hills, it was built by Elendil.
This looks great,
in the
dude.
days
Wow.
of old, to house one of the Palantirs.
Really captivating storyteller here.
Whoever controlled Amon Sul would control the knowledge of what lay beyond the horizon, and in these darkening days, such knowledge was a prize beyond all others.
Okay.
And surely enough, before long, a new shadow began to stir, which the men of the north would watch with great interest and dread.
I have to say, I love his mixing of like the narrative, kind of like emotional theatrical pieces, and then mixing in like the quotes to like kind of like confirm, like show the fact of what he's saying, right? And why it is the way it is. I really, really love that mixing in there. And again, just the way this guy is telling this story, it's really making me lock in. I'm sorry if I'm not like, you know, reacting. I just want to take it in. You know what I'm saying? When this guy speaks, I just want to listen. You know what I mean? Like he's a really, really good storyteller, I gotta say so far. Holy shit. And again, the animated illustrations there as well. Holy shit. Again, to give you a visual of where you're at, what you're looking at in this sense. I'm really enjoying this. Hobbit, you kind of cooked with this recommendation a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm enjoying this so far, man. I'm enjoying this. Not to say again, like Lord of the Rings isn't great. Again, Lord of the Rings is fantastic and whatnot, right? But this is different, right? Like this is less about like the facts and more about the storytelling of it. I think, you know what I mean? It's less about like, and it's not even that's less about the facts because you're still getting all of it, right? It's just different way of narrating, I suppose. You know what I'm saying? They both have their own merits, you know, I guess. I'm really enjoying this, though, I have to say.
Around the year 1300 of the Third Age, whispers of a new power reached the ears of men. Unremarkable it seemed at first, like a storm slowly gathering on the horizon. Its arrival was not heralded by the drums of war, nor marked by the cries of warriors, but an oppressive, watchful silence that crawled down from the mountains.
Oh.
This was no mere wandering tribe who came to claim the land. No, this was something far darker.
Yeah.
A realm born of pure malice and shadow.
Yeah, when you're used to like dealing with like hill tribes and whatnot, right? Like essentially, for lack of a better word, barbarians, right? They're not really like conniving, you know what I mean? They're pretty forward with what they're going to do. They're going to come and like raid your shit, take over what you have, you know, and I'm sure like they, you know, some were wiser than others, whatever have you, but this is different. Yeah. Some malevolent force, you know, shadows, you know, at the corner of your eye watching you while you're walking down a mountain path or some shit, you know, like just shit, you know, just ill omen shit, you know what I mean? In general, that's bad. That's bad juju, man.
Far darker.
Yeah.
A realm born of pure malice and shadow. The realm of Angmar. And as with all shadows left unchecked, it grew.
Yeah.
In its wake, the land itself seemed to recoil, and the very air grew thick with an unseen malice.
Oh.
For Angmar did not merely seek conquest, it sought ruin. It fed on discord, drawing strength from the division of the three kingdoms, a rift in the heart of Arnor that had only widened with time. Its ruler, a figure cloaked in mystery, was said to be as elusive as he was feared. Soon, the people of Arthedain would know his name, whispered in fear across their hearts.
The Witch King.
The Witch King, he was called, and he would draw all evil things to him that crept in the dark corners of the world. For at that time, the realm of Angmar arose in the north beyond the Etten Moors. Its lands lay on both sides of the mountains, and there were gathered many evil men, and orcs and other fell creatures. From the wilds they came, orcs who scurried like vermin from their holes.
I love that
eager
mix
to serve a new
of just
master who promised
quote
them
into
blood
narrative.
and
It's great.
conquest. They swarmed to Angmar's blackened halls, eager to unleash their cruelty upon the people of Arnor. To them, the Witch King was a leader worthy of reverence, a towering figure of dread who offered purpose to their mindless savagery.
And again, like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but what are you gonna do? You gonna disobey this fucking guy? Like, look at I'd shit myself if I saw that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, disobey. Yeah, see what happens to you. Yeah, go ahead, try it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm assuming it was just like one group of men he just rolled up to one day. Like, you know how like fucking like Caesar like conquested all the tribes in Fallout? I imagine that's what this guy did. He just showed up one day. You know what I mean? Except like, instead of like with his strategic genius, you know, conquering everything, he just showed up and he's like, you're going to fucking listen to me. And you look at him and you're like, okay. Like it's more like Atlanteus just rolling up with a mind of a Caesar with the body of like a leg Atlanteus. I'd fucking shit, dude. No, I'm not saying no to this guy. Not
Towering
happening.
figure of dread who offered purpose to their mindless savagery.
Yeah.
But it was not only orcs who answered the call. From the far-flung lands where their hearts had grown twisted with greed and malice, evil men, brigands, marauders, those who lived by
They
the sword
flocked to him,
and by
yeah.
the suffering
See, that's
of
different.
others, came forth to Angmar, where they found their place among the wicked. With every passing season,
Let me clarify. I'm not saying go join him. I'm just saying, like, if you're just living in the area one day and then suddenly the fucking air starts growing thicker, shit starts to die, like the life around you like just starts to wither, you know what I mean? And then this fucking imposing cloaked figure just approached. No, it's like the harbinger of fucking death himself has just came and said hello, you know? No.
where they found their place among the wicked. With every passing season, the dark fortress of Khandum, Angmar's twisted, frozen heart, became the center of a growing legion of evil. And from this fortress, the Witch King watched, gathering his strength, his cruel mind always plotting. And so the north fell still, a quiet before the storm of war swept across the lands. Darkness had come to claim what was once bright and fair. Angmar was rising.
And he absolutely like slapped them silly for a time there too. The war begins, yeah. Because I think they were just utterly like unprepared for this.
During the reign of King Argaleb of Arthedain, the line of kings in both Cardolan and Rudaur failed. This meant that, aside from Argaleb himself, no other heirs of Isildur remained in Arnor. And so, with the blood of kings still coursing through his veins, Argaleb sought to reunite the divided kingdoms under his banner. The lords of Cardolan, in their wisdom, accepted Argaleb as their sovereign. However, in Rudaur, the proud and noble men of the West were now few. Consequently, the throne of Rudaur had been seized by a lord of the savage hillmen.
Okay.
This pretender would never willingly agree to relinquish his kingdom to Argaleb, and this new king was an even greater danger than he first seemed, for he was tainted with the black will of Angmar and a puppet of the Witch King.
I see.
Argaleb knew that storm clouds gathered.
So, yeah, much like Sauron, of course, like he gets his greasy little fingers into the upper echelons of court. Like, yeah, he's bringing allies to his side through underhanded means, you know, maybe a spy in his court to whisper sweet nothings into the Lord's ear, you know what I mean? Something like that. I'd like to know a little bit more about how he brought him onto side. Like, I'm assuming it is literally just that. He's like, just send a fuckload of courtiers to his court and just Just taint his mind. Just absolutely fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, bring him on to us. Do whatever you need to do. It doesn't matter.
A puppet of the Witch King. Argaleb knew that storm clouds gathered and that he could not face the combined forces of Angmar and Rudaur unshielded. And so, in the Weather Hills, he ordered outer fortifications to be built. In the morning they found, for the first time since they had left the Chetwood, a track plain to see. It ran cunningly, taking a line that seemed chosen so as to keep as much hidden as possible from the view, both of the hilltops above and of the flats to the west. It dived into dells and hugged steep banks, and where it passed over flatter and more open ground on either side of it, there were lines of large boulders and hewn stones that screened the travelers almost like a hedge. "I wonder who made this path, and what for," said Merry, as they walked along one of these avenues where the stones were unusually large and closely set. "I'm not sure that I like it. It has rather a barrow whitish look. Is there any barrow on Weathertop?" "No, there is no barrow on Weathertop, nor on any of these hills," answered Strider. "The men of the West did not live here, though in their latter days they defended the hills for a while against the evil that came out of Angmar. This path was made to serve the forts along the walls." In the Weather Hills, the men of Arthedain and Cardolan stood side by side as brothers, ever vigilant, their eyes scanning the horizon, beyond which darkness festered.
I see.
And their watch would not last long before the forces of Angmar and Rudaur attacked.
Holy shit.
King Argaleb, brave and unyielding, fought alongside his men.
Oh my
his
God.
sword a gleaming shard of hope in the dim light of battle.
Now, of course, we know, right? When the king takes the field of battle, that is one hell of an inspiration for the men fighting. But that's also a huge risk if you die, right? If that king dies on the field of battle. Now, unless this is a really, really well, disciplined force, you can almost assure your line is going to fucking shatter right there. And not only that, now what happens after your death, right? Now there's a line of succession. You have to worry about all that nonsense while you're getting invaded. Ugh. It's a risk. I can understand, and again, if he's a good king, if he's a fair king, and he wants to slog it out with his men, completely understandable, but it's a bigger picture, that's rough.
His sword a gleaming shard of hope in the dim light of battle. Yet hope alone could not turn the tide, and in the year 1356, he fell, slain in battle.
Yeah.
His death sent a tremor through the land, and some felt that hope was fading. But from that grief arose Arveleg, his son. This new king did not let despair drown his spirit. With the fires of vengeance and duty burning in his chest, Arveleg rallied his men. And they would not stand alone. For, hearing of their peril, Círdan sent a host of elven warriors forth from Lindon to aid them.
Sick.
Together they struck back, driving the enemies from the...
Okay, and it's actually kind of cool too. You notice Arnor here, actually they lost some of their forces. They lost their king, they lost 2 other units, and now they're getting reinforced with elven units. And that new king as well. Cool that the succession was firm and it was very clear, yeah, his son is taking this. He's gonna be the one to do it. You know what I mean? And he was a good king too, also. Just like his father, seems very fair, very valorant on the field of battle, wants to rally his men and wants to fight this oppressive force. He wasn't meek. He doesn't seem like he was scared. He wanted fucking vengeance for what they just did. You know what I mean? Respectable shit for sure.
The hills that Argaleb had given his life to defend. Once more the frontier was restored, and during the years that followed, the lands of Arthedain and Cardolan stood together and stood firm. They guarded the Weather Hills, the great road that cut through the wilderness, and the lower reaches of the Horwell, where the waters flowed cold and swift.
Nice.
The struggle was far from over, but for a time, the North could catch its breath.
They beat back that force and solidly reinforced their borders. That's sick. Oh, the Angmar strikes again. Take 2, boys. First one
After
failed.
the intervention of the elves of Lindon, the Witch King sought retribution. But Linden was distant, and vast lands filled with enemies lay between his realm and theirs. But there were other elves. Now that the Witch King controlled Rudar through his puppet king, a smaller and less well-defended settlement of the elves lay upon his doorstep. And so it is said that in those long faded days, the hidden refuge of Rivendell was besieged, and the fires of war burned at the foot of the mountains. Here dwelled Elrond, the wise and noble lord of Rivendell. Elrond possessed a ring of power, Velia, the most powerful of the 3 rings of the elves, but the second siege of Rivendell could not be undone by his strength alone, and Elrond knew that Angmar could not be allowed to extinguish the flickering light of hope that had long dwelled in his fair haven.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say right now, dude, if Rivendell got burned here, that would suck. Like, that would drastically change things in a very negative way, especially if he got access to one of those rings of power, the Elvish rings of power, the most powerful one. Fuck. Like, dude, that could have been some shit right there. I'm not even gonna lie.
Thus, in the hour of Rivendell's most dire need, Elrond sent for aid across the mountains.
Could you imagine if just aid didn't come? They just allowed it to be sacked. That would have been awful, man.
A relief force was assembled in haste. Across the high passes of the mountains and through mist-laden valleys,
or if it didn't get there in time even.
Marched, and they came to Imladris and lent their strength to Rivendell. And at last, the siege was broken. Yet the storm of war did not confine itself to Rivendell alone. For in the very same year, 1409 of the Third Age, the Witch King sent forth a second host with the intention of securing Amun-Sul.
Jesus.
Amun-Sul provided a major strategic advantage for Argyle.
Dude, he's shitting out armies right now. Oh my god.
Would blind the Dunedain to his movements. Across the cold waters of the river,
holy shit, he is shitting out armies,
flapping like ravens' wings as they crossed into Cardolan and surrounded the high tower.
Yeah, that's. I want to say that's fucked. Look how many just like mobilized forces just rolled on in there. Yeah, like even assuming they like from the map here alone. Now, I don't know, of course, like specific strike numbers necessarily what they're wielding. But this is the Witch King we're talking about, so they got some fuck shit for sure. But it even looked like there was like maybe 2-3 of Arnor's forces like manning the border here, and they're getting overwhelmed by like a force of 6. So like divide and conquer, they just 3-3, split their forces, absolutely crushed those border forces there. Now they're moving on the king again, same spot. That's crazy, but like yeah, it's good shit. And they also like entered from a different place too, right? They didn't go back on that hillside. Like I think that was a stupid place to attack. Very defensible position right off the bat. But now you're coming into friendly territory, so it's either they sit there, right, and let you just absolutely pillage their countryside and all their civilian population at this time period, of course, and in this universe, or they come out and fight you, and you're a much larger force. So it's rough, right? It's rough. What do you do?
As they crossed into Cardolan and surrounded
now it
the
seems
high
like he's
tower.
Strictly going for
there, on the windswept
his target
heights,
here.
Arveleg, son of Argaleb, stood against the tide. But the Dunedain were overrun, their swords broken, their shields shattered. Arveleg fell, and with him died
another
many
king.
of the proud defenders of that ancient stronghold. Yet not all, for amid the ruin, in the smoke-choked twilight of that terrible day, the Palantir was snatched from the grasp of defeat and carried northward, back to Fornost, where hope still lingered.
They actually broke out with it.
Now finally stood in the hilltop fort.
But I'm just saying too, just imagine, right? If they, now I know obviously committing to a siege, they just want, they want Amun-Sul, right? That's a very strategically valuable place, and also with the Palantir there, right? Which they got at, thankfully. But if they sent even like one of these human barbarian forces just into the countryside, just to like distract, wreak havoc, dude. Because now the thing is you have to track that force down. You have to commit armies to track that force down as it's ruining your cities and ruining your civilian population, ruining everything, right? Behind these lines, right? You have to commit forces to go chase them down, or they're just going to do whatever they want, right? Like it's rough. Thankfully, they didn't do that in this case. That's what I'm going to say.
Hope still lingered. The forces of the Witch King now finally stood in the hilltop fortress, but he did not intend to simply capture it. For he knew that the Dunedain would soon dedicate all their strength to driving his forces back once more. So instead, he ordered the ancient landmark, steeped in the history of the Northern Kingdom, to be destroyed.
Damn.
The strong stone walls were sundered by fire, and the cruel hands of the enemy and the fortress crumbled into ruin. But long before, in the first days of the North Kingdom, they built a great watchtower on Weathertop. Amon Sul, they called it. It was burned and broken, and nothing remains of it now but a tumbled ring, like a rough crown on the old hill's head. Yet once it was tall and fair. It is told that Elendil stood there watching for the coming of Gil-galad out of the west in the days of the last alliance.
Damn, dude.
As the frontier was broken and the defenders fled, Cardolan was ravaged.
Yeah,
its
there it
fields
is.
trampled beneath the
There
iron
it
feet
is.
of war. Its people murdered,
Fuck.
its cities burned,
Yeah.
and its lands laid waste.
Okay, there it is. So they just, yeah. So the Witch King was like, first off, just fuck the king, then we can go have our fun. Okay, yeah, no, that's reasonable. Also, I understand why they burned Amon Sul, right? Obviously, it's a very, like, in terms of morale, it's a very, like, strong point of morale for Arnor. But man, imagine if, like, he just occupied Arnon Sul there, like, in its full glory, just occupied it. Now, holy fuck, like, Arnor's got to muster a force to take down that place. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, you know what I mean? Arguably would have done better if he just captured it instead of burned it completely there. Like,
Yet
sacked
pockets
it, you
of
know?
resistance would endure. In the
I understand why he did
Barrow
it, though.
Downs, the ancient mounds of Tirn Gorthard, a remnant of the Dunedain held fast, their spirits unbroken. And in the deep woods beyond, others chose to remain and dwell among the trees, hidden from the eye of the enemy.
A little gorilla
After
fighting
this
them.
defeat, the land of Rudaur fell under a darker shadow still.
I mean, that's what you got to do at this point.
No one lives in this land. Men once
Completely
dwelt
getting
here
overwhelmed.
ages ago, but none remain now. They became an evil people, as legends tell, for they fell under the shadow of Angmar. But that is now so long ago that the hills have forgotten them, though a shadow still lies on the land. The once proud realm, now crawling with evil men bound to the will of Angmar, was forsaken by those few Dunedain who had not already perished. Their halls were abandoned and their banners torn down. Rudaur had utterly fallen and was now a vassal of Angmar. But even in the shadow of this great devastation, Arthedain endured.
Angmar is kind of fucking popping off right now, though. Holy shit.
Arafor, son of the fallen Arveleg.
Like, it's I'm just gonna say, like, you know, strategic map mode view right now. Like, if this was Hoy, dude, it's looking really fucking cooked for Arnor right now. Like, it's not looking good, dude. It's looking, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, oof.
The shadow of this great devastation, Arafor, son of the fallen Arveleg, though young and untested, took up his father's sword. He was not yet of full age, but the fire of his forebears burned bright within him, and he stood ready to lead his men in the defense of the kingdom.
You're it.
As the forces of Angmar stood poised to strike now into Arthedain. Surrounded, outnumbered and demoralized, it seemed as if Arthedain and its young king were at last doomed. But learning of the plight of the young Arafor, Círdan the shipwright marched to the aid of the Dunedain. The gleaming warriors bolstered the defenses and rekindled hope in the defenders. And so,
dude, the elves, like, are kind of coming in clutch here every single time. It's like, fuck, do we have to come save your asses again? Like, damn. No, but I get it. Like, this straight up is just like a huge force of enemies. And again, led by the Witch King. It's like, arguably the elves shouldn't have let him get to this state to begin with, you know, arguably. But it's, again, 675 years. I guess what's the exact time frame from from subjugating that hill tribe kingdom there, and then like subjugating the south of Arnor here as well? I wonder what like the exact time frame would be for all that.
The defenses and rekindled hope in the defenders. And so, with the help of the elves of Linden, Arafor led a desperate last defense of Arthedain.
Okay.
The combined strength and skill
battle.
of the Dunedain and the Eldar were too much for their foe. Together they drove the forces of Angmar from Fornost and the North Downs, finally stalling the relentless march of their grim enemy. And now the other hosts of the elves also came forth.
Oh,
The
sick.
elves of
Elrond
Linden,
sending his forces
Rivendell,
out.
and Lorien all struck out into Arnor, harrying the Witch King's forces and allowing his wretched minions no peace in their newly conquered lands.
Yeah.
And so, the Witch King, preoccupied
Can't
with
muster a
elven
force.
assaults, was unable to form an army capable of leading an assault on Arthedain. As a result of the actions of the elves, Arafor was able to lead a long and watchful reign of relative peace, suffering no further incursions into his lands. As the Dunedain's land was made safe by the strength of the elves, others would feel the weight of Angmar's oppressive shadow. For in Arnor's folds, there lived gentler folk with humble hearts who favored peace and simplicity over the burdens of kingdom and crown.
Oh. Concerning Hobbit. Oh, is this where the hobbits come from?
In this age of sorrow and steel,
Because I know they got moved, or they
quiet and modest
migrated
folk
to the
found
Shire, right?
themselves caught in the churning tide of conflict. They had long dwelt in the Angle, nestled between the wild, rushing waters of the Horwell and Loudwater rivers.
Oh.
Yet the lands that once fed them, where their children had played and harvests bloomed in their season, grew tainted by the threat of war.
I didn't know that's where they were originally
Angmar's
from.
shadows stretched long and far, creeping over the hills and valleys.
Yeah, dude, that's fucked. Like, can you imagine you're just like the hobbits and suddenly the Witch King comes knocking, bro? Like, what do you do? they're not putting up much resistance, I don't feel like, you know, by themselves at least. But then
Angmar's
again, no one
shadows
is.
stretched long and far, creeping over the hills and valleys, poisoning the air with fear. The stores, neither great warriors nor mighty kings, knew they could not remain. For war was a cruel visitor, and they would not wait for his arrival. Some of these hobbits sought refuge in the wildlands across the mountains, forsaking their homes for the uncertain promise of new beginnings upon the banks of the Gladden. They became a people of the water, fisherfolk who found solace in the murmur of the rivers. It is said, from this quiet folk living on the edge of the wildlands, there would one day come a small and twisted creature. Gollum, he would be called, but Smeagol he was first, an unlikely soul bound to a fate far darker than any could have imagined for him. Not all of the stores heeded the call of the east. Some looked instead to the west and south. Their journey stretched across the broad plains and hidden valleys of Arnor, but it was no swift march. It was a long wandering, one fraught with danger and uncertainty. During the Hobbit's 2 long centuries of wandering, King Arafor passed away, having ruled
2
Arthedain
centuries
for 180
of wandering.
years,
Crazy.
and his son Argaleb II took to the throne of Arthedain. And it was he who noticed their small footsteps as they wandered the lands of Arnor. The sight of these meek yet determined hobbits must have moved something deep within him. For it was in the 1601st year of the Third Age that the Fallowhide brothers, Marco and Blanco, set out from Bree, and having obtained permission from the High King at Fornost, they crossed the brown river Baranduin with a great following of hobbits. They passed over the Bridge of Stonebows that had been built in the days of the power of the North Kingdom, and they took all the land beyond to dwell in, between the river and the far downs. At once, the western hobbits fell in love with their new land, and they remained there and soon passed once more out of the history of men and of elves. And so, under the leadership of the brothers,
That's really interesting. So it was literally the case of like, this king felt fucking pity for them because they're literally just wandering around in enemy territory, for lack of a better word. Fuck, okay, you can come live in the Shire. Okay, they moved there to the Shire, and then people were just like, they just forgot they fucking existed over time. Fair enough, because they're just like such a, like an unsuspecting people. They don't really bother anyone. They just kind of mind their own business for the most part. You know, they're pretty friendly. I mean, even if there is visitors, they're a little sketched out by them, but they're not like, you know, they don't mean any ill harm or ill intent towards any visitors. So they're not like a bad people to even have around at all.
And of
to work the land and like maintain things.
And so, under the leadership of the brothers Marco and Blanco, a great number of hobbits gathered and set forth once more. As they finally came to the end of their long road, they would discover a green and fertile land, the sanctuary they had long sought, the Shire, it would come to be called, and amongst its rolling hills and gentle streams, the hobbits would build their homes. However, this was an age where innocence was a rare flower, blooming only briefly before being scorched by the fires of war. Yet it was not only war that was to be feared, for a new
they're still right on the border there, aren't they?
An evil from which even the Shire folk were not immune.
Really? The Great Plague.
In the years after the hobbits first settled in the gentle hills of the Shire, when their laughter still rang fresh in the green fields, a new terror stirred in the east. It did not offer the cold malice of blade or the ominous beating of the drums of war, but something far more insidious, a creeping pestilence. The Great Plague, it was named, a windless storm that crept over the land, bringing death and despair. From the distant lands of Rhûn, it eventually spread its deadly fingers toward Gondor in 1636, and soon made its way to Arnor.
And I wonder, does it affect all races?
The Dunedain of Cardolan, those who had held out with such stubbornness in the Barrow Downs, fell prey to the fever. Thus, this once proud kingdom stood utterly abandoned. And in the still silence, the Witch King sensed an opportunity. For the heart of Cardolan still beat faintly in the veins of the Dunedain, who might one day seek to reclaim what was lost. And so, he devised a foul sorcery designed to ensure that none would dare to resettle these lands ever again.
Fuck, dude. That's
he cast
brutal.
a dark enchantment upon the Barrow Downs, that ancient and hallowed ground where the honored dead slept beneath the earth. But the dead would find no peace there now. It is said that the mounds of Tirn Gorthad, as the Barrow Downs were called of old, are very ancient,
absolutely just curse the
many
land,
were built
bro.
in the days of the old world of the First Age, by the forefathers of the Edain before they crossed the Blue Mountains into Beleriand, of which Lindon is all that now remains. Those hills were therefore revered by the Dunedain after their return, and there many of their lords and kings were buried. The Witch King called upon shadowy spirits, born from the void between life and death. These wraiths, twisted and hateful, were sent to roam among the tombs, transforming the once sacred earth into a cursed soil. The Witch King's spirits stirred the very bones of the dead, awakening them to a cruel parody of life.
Jesus,
Skeletal
man.
fingers, once clasped in eternal rest, twitched and clawed their way from the earth. The dead of Cardolan no longer slept. They walked once more.
That's fucked.
Trembling, he looked up.
So he straight up turned that fucking place into zombie land, dude, for lack of a better word. Oh no. Oh no. I just lost my place. Oh, there we go. Hold on.
They're coming. The very air over the hills.
Oh no. Hold on. That's not the right place. That's not the right place. It's not the right place.
Foul sorcery again. That ancient and hallowed would find no peace there now.
But yeah, he straight up turned that place into fucking zombie land, essentially, for lack of a better word. So he created race there, which went to the burial sites of the dead, awoke their ancestors, and now they just fucking haunt the land, for lack of a better word. That is some cursed shit, man. Like, that's awful. That's really awful. And yeah, what a way to like make sure no one ever wants to settle there again. Not only is that scary as shit, but like also you're in a way desecrating your own ancestors is what he made it. You know what I mean? That's bad, dude. Shit.
It is said that the mounds of Tirn Gorthad, as the Barrow Downs were called of old, are very ancient, and that many were built in the days of the old world of the First Age, by the forefathers of the Edain before they crossed the Blue Mountains into Beleriand, of which Linden is all that now remains. Those hills were therefore revered by
I know
the
we listened to
Dunedain
this,
after
but
their return,
we'll listen to it again.
and there many of their lords and kings were buried. The Witch King called upon shadowy spirits, born from the void between life and...
Oh shit, are we... Oh, wait, we are a little bit... Okay, I was actually kind of right. Okay, hold on. Cool parody of skeleton... I don't know why that happened.
Trembling, he looked up,
There we
in
go.
time to see a tall, dark figure like a shadow against the stars. It leaned over him. He thought there were two eyes, very cold, though lit with a pale light that seemed to come from some remote distance. Then a grip stronger and colder than iron seized him. The icy touch froze his bones, and he remembered no more.
Oh.
The spirits who dwelled on the Barrow Downs would come to be known as the Barrow Wights, and were
Barrow
terrifying
Wights.
to behold.
Right, I'm
As
assuming.
ghastly figures,
Not
with an
whites,
eerie,
Barrow Wights?
pale
Oh my
light
god. Holy
glimmering
shit.
from their sunken eyes. They spoke with voices deep and hollow, like the dirge of the cold wind that howled across their domain. And their touch, should it find a living soul, felt like ice creeping into the flesh. The rings they wore, a reminder of their forgotten glory,
Damn.
clinked like chains heralding their coming. The very air over the hills seemed colder, heavier, and those who wandered into the mist too far never returned.
Fuck. Literally cursed land, dude. The last hope of Arnor.
In the year 1851, King Araval, great-grandson of Argileb II and sovereign of Arthedain, rallied the remnants of his people. He had not forgotten the proud legacy of his forefathers, nor that the blood of Numenor still coursed through his veins. He sought to reclaim the lands that were lost and re-establish Arnor as a unified kingdom. His campaign would begin in Cardolan, for here lay his best chance to drive back the tide of darkness. If he could defeat the forces garrisoned here, he could re-establish the lost frontier at the Weather Hills, and from there have a base to push onward and drive the evil men from Rhudaur. However, the Dunedain were still much diminished in strength, and this was a fight that he could not take on alone. So, men once again sought
Please
the aid
help
of the
us.
ancient and wise elves of Linden and Rivendell. Together, they stood upon the fields of Cardolan. The banners of the Dunedain flew alongside the shimmering sigils of the Eldar for the first time in centuries. And there, beneath the cold, watchful skies,
But yeah, this is
they
like a
descended
long
upon
time
the
in between,
forces
to
of
be
the
fair.
Witch King. The elves and men unleashed their fury as they surged forward, blades flashing as the thunder of hooves sounded upon the plain. The forces of Angmar were outmatched and inevitably began to waver before being routed by the resolute might of the allied armies, leaving the plains of Cardolan to witness yet another sunrise over the bones of fallen warriors.
Wow.
Through the strength of their alliance,
And I have to say too, like, yeah, like the Witch King's forces are very fucking like outmatched in most cases. It's not really quality troops. It doesn't seem like. The second the humans get the elves on side and they come to a battlefield, they just fucking slap. Like they didn't even technically, according to this, like lose like a regiment there by the look of it. They just fucking routed that army after destroying most of it.
Yet another sunrise
It's good shit.
over the bones of fallen warriors. Through the strength of their alliance, they had freed Cardolan once more, and Araval sought to resettle the reclaimed lands. But though the armies of men and elves had vanquished the threat of Angmar's armies, they had not driven off the spirits that lingered there. No torch could banish the shadows that clung to the Barrow Downs. No sword could cleave the air of despair. The people of the north recoiled from the land, for they were a folk steeped in ancient belief and superstition. To them, the rising of the dead was a curse that could not be understood nor undone.
I see.
Araval, despite his valor and victories, could do nothing. The people would not return to a land where the veil between life and death had been torn asunder. Thus, the land of Cardolan
Makes sense. Would you want to go
remained a
resettle
silent
that? I
realm of
wouldn't.
Ghosts, a place that only the dead could abide. And the flame of hope that Araval ignited for a reunited Arnor was extinguished by the chill fingers of the Barrow Wights.
Really? Wow. So that really fucked with them hard, the fact that the undead rose there. That makes sense.
In the very same year that Araval attempted to retake Cardolan, a force of wagon-riding warriors from the east, known as the Wain Riders, descended upon Gondor.
Wagon
Their
riders,
savage
damn.
attacks, driven by their bitter hatred for the West,
It's kind of cool,
tested
actually.
the
They have, like,
strength of the
mobile
proud
infantry. What
southern
the fuck?
realm. This new threat caused whispers of a conspiracy to swirl from Arthedain to Gondor. Could it be, they wondered, that the Witch King and the Wain Riders were each puppets of a hidden orchestrator lurking in the shadows? It was said in secret councils that the two kingdoms, estranged by years and distance, might yet find their fates bound together once more as they strived against a common foe.
Yeah.
And so, Gondor and Arnor chose at last to renew their ancient bonds. It was in the year 1940 that this pact was sealed with a royal marriage. Prince Arvedwi, the proud heir of Arthedain in the north, took the hand of Firiel, the radiant daughter of Gondor's king. Firiel could trace her lineage back to Anarion, while Arvedwi was the descendant of Isildur. In this union, two
It's a pretty
noble
based
lines,
marriage, I have to say.
separated by centuries and sorrow, wove together once again.
Like, yeah.
The Dunedain would now have sensed a dawning hope, a whisper of unity through every land where men of Numenor still lingered. In the year 1944, the King Ondoher of Gondor fell in battle. His sons too, Artemir and Faramir, had each been slain in the wars, leaving the proud royal house of Gondor in ruins. In the north, news came to Firiel of the death of her father and brothers. Thus, with the throne of Gondor vacant, Arvedwi's ambitions stirred. For he was of Elendil's line and of the blood of Isildur, the last High King. Yet, it was...
I see. So because, yeah, so now the kingship and the brothers have died, and now he's married to the daughter of him. There's no one maybe left to inherit, and if there is, they might be like children, whatever have you. So now Angor is kind of looking there, like licking his chops, like, oh, that's you. I could be king of both places, you know, in a sense. I mean, that's how I would see it, at least.
And of the blood of Isildur, the last High King. Yet, it was not only through blood that he claimed the throne. By his union with Firiel, now the last living child of Ondoher,
powerful, yeah.
The claim was strengthened.
Like, you got a
And
massive
so by right
claim.
of birth and by right of marriage, he staked his claim to the high kingship of both Gondor and Arnor.
Like, yeah.
And it was then that the words of an old prophecy came to light, words that had been spoken upon his birth. It is said that this name was given to him at his birth by Malbeth the seer, who said to his father, Arvedwi you shall call him, for he will be the last in Arthedain. Though a choice will come to the Dunedain, and if they take the one that seems less hopeful, then your son will change his name and become king of a great realm. If not, then much sorrow and many lives of men shall pass, until the Dunedain arise and are united again. The stage was set for the realms of the Dunedain to see the days of the High Kings restored, but in the eyes of the Council of Gondor, Arthedain was small and insignificant when compared to mighty Gondor. It was now but a shadow of its former glory, and its people had dwindled. The lord of this...
So Gondor is looking at Arnor kind of like, this little fucking pretender kingdom is trying to assume leadership of us. But they've been doing nothing but getting wrecked for the past few centuries. Why should we allow this, you know? What proof is it that, like, that he's going to lead us to glory, you know what I mean? That this kingship of this foreign, right, at this point in time, because so much time has passed, right? King Is he going to lead us? Is he going to lead us to glory? Is he going to lead us to success? Or is he going to help us fall like his kingdom has been for the last few centuries? Now, not even his fault, of course. This has been going on. The Witch King is mega powerful, you know, a threat to everyone, even elves, right? But that's how they see it in Gondor. I could see that.
Shadow of its former glory, and its people had dwindled. The lord of this realm was therefore not deemed to be a suitable ruler for their illustrious southern realm. Led by the voice of the steward Pelendur, the council rejected Arvedwy's claim and instead crowned Eärnil as their new king. For Eärnil commanded Gondor's southern armies under Ondoher, and he had recently won 2 great victories against the Haradrim and the Wainriders, which had saved Gondor. He was also a descendant of the House of Anarion, and therefore a fitting choice. With this decision, the precedent was set, and the fate of Arnor was sealed. Eärnil was, however, a man of wisdom and humility. He did not scorn Arvedwy for claiming the kingship, nor forget the bonds that had once united Gondor and Arnor.
That's good.
A message sent north, he wrote to Arvedwy with measured grace. He sent messages to Arvedwy announcing that he received the crown of Gondor, according to the laws and the needs of the South Kingdom. But I do not forget the royalty of Arnor, nor deny our kinship, nor wish that the realms of Elendil should be estranged. I will send to your aid when you have need, so far as I am able. It was, however, long before Eärnil felt himself sufficiently secure to do as he promised.
Damn.
As the bitter years dragged on and the storm clouds gathered once more over the north, Arvedwy rose to take his father's place as Arthedain's king. And it was then that at long last, the Witch King prepared for one final assault upon the last vestiges of the North Kingdom. Arvedwy found himself standing against the darkness with limited resources at his disposal, his people dwindling and his forces depleted.
Okay.
He sent word south to Gondor, calling upon Eärnil to honor his promise of aid, for the doom of Arnor was at hand, and the Witch King's final blow would fall hard and heavy, threatening to bring a violent end to the Northern Kingdom once and for all.
Fate of Arthedain.
The winds from the north grew sharp and bitter as the Witch King marched forth, driving his host
Come on,
through
Gondor.
the winter snows that covered the land.
Fulfill your promise.
They descended upon Arthedain in great strength, and this time Arvedwy knew he could not save his kingdom without aid.
Fuck.
The defenders
That's
looked
desperate.
hopefully to the shores for reinforcements from the south,
Elves?
but no ships of Gondor would come.
Fuck.
Most of the hobbits, gentlefolk, unused to the clangor of war, fled to the deep woods and shadowed valleys, seeking refuge from the chaos.
Oh my god.
But some among them, those with keen eyes and steady hands, resolved not to hide in the shadows, but to fight for those who gave them the lands which they now called home.
Thank God.
And so a force of hobbit archers, small of stature but mighty in spirit, marched to Fornost and to the aid of the Dunedain in their hour of need. There
That's
the
awesome.
hobbits stood, alongside the brave defenders.
They got a beer
whose
keg
fate
sigil?
fast
That's
approached,
awesome.
heralded now.
Just a bunch of fucking hobbits with bows just fucking show up. Like, thank God, though. Like, yeah, like they literally got this land given to them. If they're not willing to fight to protect it now, and they're just trying to run away again, like the hobbits got to make a stand here. You know what I mean? It's good that some were willing to. Not all fled, you know? I get it, they're hobbits, but yeah, you got to, you know, you can't just keep running all the time, right? Especially now that you've established yourself in this area under this new king, like, or under what's to you a new king, right? Like, you got to fight for it, man. Come on.
Alongside the brave defenders.
Good for
whose
those
fate
hobbits.
Fast approached, heralded now by the thunder of the drums of war.
Holy fuck shit.
Suddenly, the entire might of Angmar came rushing out of the night like a tide, black and unstoppable.
Yeah, that's a lot of
crashing
them.
upon the walls of Fornost. The hobbits' arrows flew swift and true, but the enemy were too many. Before long, the ladders clattered against the ramparts, and the enemy were upon them. The Dunedain fought bravely in the face of overwhelming odds, but before long, Fornost was overrun. Not a single hobbit survived. their
Fuck.
small bodies laying still among the fallen heroes of the north. Some of the surviving Dunedain were able to flee the city, yet the Witch King would not relent. He pressed onward, his forces driving the remaining men across the rushing waters of the River Lune. Yet even as all seemed lost, King Arvedwy rallied a force upon the windswept North Downs, and here they stood, weary and few, holding back the tide of darkness, fighting with the ferocity of those who had nothing left to lose. Only when the fires of hope had burned down to their final...
Yeah, that's brutal. Their capital city at this point has been fucking sacked, which is rough, dude. Like, that's brutal. The hobbits, yeah, they're not escaping, unfortunately. What are they going to do, run away? No. Unfortunately, you know. But, no, the fact that Gondor didn't send aid there, and the fact that the elves, even Rivendell, or the Elven Kingdom to the west there, didn't send aid there, that's a big L. I'm not going to lie. Like, again, because if Angor falls, what then? Everyone's threatened.
Had nothing left to lose. Only when the fires of hope had burned down to their final embers did Arvedwy relent. He and his remaining guard mounted their steeds. Their horses, swift as the wind that howled through the barren hills, carried them northward into the frozen wild, away from the ruin of their home. And so, the north fell silent. The lands lay stained with blood and littered with the dead.
You just
The
fucked
realm
off,
of
really.
Arthedain, once strong and proud,
He left.
lay in ruin.
He pieced
its
out.
people scattered, its lands finally
Crazy.
overrun.
He just fled, man. Wow. That's brutal.
Arvedwy sought
Snowmen.
refuge in the tunnels of the old dwarf mines, deep beneath the frozen peaks of the northern mountains. There he lingered for a time with his few surviving companions, but hunger soon forced them out into bitter winds that swept the land above, where the once proud king was forced to beg for aid in a land where little pity was known. But there was hope yet, even in those desolate lands. For the Lossoth, the snowmen of Foreshell, had long dwelled in these parts. They were hardy folk, descendants of the Forodwaith, ancient men of the elder days who had lived under the shadow of Morgoth's cold domain.
Damn,
The
dude.
chill of that dark age still clung to the land. Though it lay but 100 leagues north of the Shire, with its rolling green hills, here in Foreshell, the cold was a living entity that tested the resolve of any who stepped foot into its icy domain.
Yeah, no
The
doubt.
Lossoth made their home on the great Cape of
Looks
Foreshell,
frozen, man.
jutting like a finger into the vast bay.
Cape of Foreshell.
They were
Wow,
a people
they're
shaped
really
by the
far
land
north.
they dwelt in.
Holy shit.
Fierce, secretive, and wary of strangers. Some of these folk would roam the southern shores of the bay, camping at the feet of the mountains. And one such camp lay nestled on the frozen edge of the sea when Arvedwy and his men came wandering from the mines. But these were no welcoming saviors. The snowmen regarded him with suspicion, their eyes narrowing beneath thick furs. Arvedwy, a king without a kingdom, had little to offer them, only a few jewels which held little worth to the Lossoth, who had no love for such things.
Yeah,
And
what's
they
that going to
feared
do up
aid
here?
the enemies of the Witch King of Angmar, who, they said, could bend frost and thaw to his will.
Damn.
Yet they chose to pity the king and his men. They gave the Dunedain a little food and helped them to build snow huts for shelter. There, on the unforgiving shores of the bay, Arvedwy waited, gazing southward with hope that grew thinner as each day passed. For his horses had perished and the way home was lost to him. All
Damn.
he could do was await rescue, unaware if any would ever come.
Holy
Far
shit.
to the south, Círdan learned of the king's desperate flight, and without delay, he sent a ship northward to Foreshell to bring him back to Lindon. Yet even the sea seemed to conspire against them, as contrary winds harried the mariners, pushing them back and delaying their arrival. But after many long days, the ship found its way to the frozen bay, where the mariners of Círdan, with keen eyes, spotted a small, flickering fire which was kept alive by Arvedwy and his company.
I wonder
The
how many,
snowmen,
like,
seeing the ship
I wonder how many like company members he actually escaped with. Like, I'm assuming a company. Like, it's got to be like what, like under 15, under 20. You know, survivors that fled with the king here. That's fucking crazy, man. Like, you'd have to be so fucking loyal to stick it out to this guy after all this. But I mean, shit, how could you not be after all you've been through? And it's not like he didn't fight with his men. Like, it was like that or die, like run away or die, like straight up. Maybe we can reclaim it in the future, you know, but if you die here, nothing, like that's it. I understand it. I understand it.
By Arvedwi and his company. The snowmen, seeing the ship's arrival, were at first stricken with awe and dread. None among them could remember such a vessel.
Wow.
And as Arvedwi stood on that frozen shoreline, watching his salvation draw ever nearer, the chief of the Lossoth came forward, his fur-lined face shadowed with unease. He breathed deep of the northern wind and shook his head, his voice low and grave, as he warned Arvedwi not to board the ship.
Really?
And the chief of the Lossoth said to Arvedwi, "Do not mount on this sea monster. If they have them, let the seamen bring us food and other things that we need, and you may stay here till the Witch King goes home."
Witch King's never
summer,
going home.
His power wanes, but now his breath is deadly, and his cold arm is long. But Arvedwi did not take his counsel. He thanked him, and at parting gave him his ring, saying, "This is a thing of worth beyond your reckoning, for its ancientry alone. It has no power, save the esteem in which those hold it who love my house. It will not help you, but if ever you are in need, my kin will ransom it with great store of all that you desire."
Wow.
And so, the ring of Barahir, which had once adorned the hand of Beren in an age of legend long past, was saved from the doom that followed.
Jesus.
For the Lossoth's warning was not without merit. The counsel that the chief had given, whether by chance or some deeper wisdom, might have saved the king had it been followed.
Really? Did
But
he die on that
had the ship
voyage?
begun to move toward the open sea when a terrible storm came out of the north. The sky darkened, and blinding snow swirled in furious gusts, driving the ship back toward the jagged ice floes that stretched far out from the shore.
Oh my god.
Even the seasoned mariners of Círdan were powerless against the fury of the storm. Ice, like claws, closed in upon the ship, pressing against its hull with relentless force. The wood groaned, splintered, and with a thunderous crash, the ship was shattered. As the storm raged on, Arvedwi, the last king of Arthedain, perished beneath the icy waves of the northern seas.
That's fucked. That's such a way to go down, dude. But also, again, in a way, kind of realistic, right? Like, he survived all that, was a fucking hero, was about to go home, maybe reclaim his kingdom. And on the voyage home, just a storm happened and he fucking drowned. Ain't that a way to fucking go, man? Like, straight up. That fucking sucks, dude. That sucks. What a way.
The Witch King sat proudly upon the throne of Arthedain, his victory complete, while his dark minions tainted the halls of Fornost with their presence. Yet in the distant south, Eärnil, king of Gondor, had not forgotten his vow. The king's heart was burdened with the weight of Arvedwi's last, desperate plea for aid. Even as the Witch King's forces closed in upon the doomed remnants of Arthedain, Eärnil had moved with all the swiftness his great realm could muster. He knew the north was falling. He knew the hour was late, but he would not abandon his word. Gathering his strength, he called forth the might of Gondor
very
and gave
late.
command of the great fleet to his son, a prince of fierce valor named Eärnur. The black sails of the Gondorian ships darkened the sea like a storm upon the horizon, swift.
I'm not gonna lie, this kind of seems like a fucking, like, if ever there was a way that Gondor could consolidate its own power, it would literally be let the North fall and come reclaim it after the fact. Hate to say it, but it almost like, oh yeah, the hour is late, we're sending our aid, but it's not gonna get there until way too late. Like, you fucks. Like, you should have sent that aeons ago. Like, we've been begging. Like, he was literally like, dude, like, the end is nigh. Like, I can see his forces amassing across the border. It's bad. Please send help. Well, once war actually starts, then we'll come. Like, bro, it'll be too late by then. Like, what are you talking about? Gondor kind of dropped the ball on this one.
Ships darkened the sea like a storm upon the horizon, swift on the wind. But alas, the enemy's malice worked faster than even Gondor's speed. By the time Eärnor's prows kissed the shores of Lindon, the doom of Arthedain had already been sealed.
Like, yeah.
Eärnor discovered how the Witch King had struck the final blow, and that Arvedwi, the last king of that forsaken realm, had gone to his grave beneath the icy northern seas, believing that Gondor had abandoned him.
Because you kind of did. No offense, but like,
dissuade Eärnor.
Like, straight up thinking that he abandoned him. Like, you did. You did fucking abandon him. Like, you took way too fucking long to assemble that force, bro. Like, he was literally, before the war even started, he was telling you, like, dude, you need to bring forces here. Like, please commit just some men to fucking just, like, be here at least. I gotta consolidate my own power first. You know, there's a lot going on down here. Unfortunately, you know, I just, you know, eventually, like, bro.
Abandoned him. Yet even these dire tidings would not dissuade Eärnor, for the force that Eärnil had sent north was no mere token of aid. It was a host vast beyond reckoning.
Yeah, where was it when they needed you?
When Eärnor came to the Grey Havens, there was joy and great wonder among both elves and men. So great in draught, and so many were his ships, that they could scarcely find harborage, though both the Harland and the Foreland also were filled. And from them descended an army of power, with munition and provision for a war of great kings. Most of all, the horses were praised, for many of them came from the vales of Anduin, and with them were riders tall and fair, and proud princes of Rovanion. And at Lindon, Círdan put forth a call that swept through the lands like a clarion cry in the cold dawn. He called upon all elves who would fight. Many came, fair folk with their bright swords and ancient bows, who had seen both the rise and fall of Arnor, and would now see it free of the Witch King's foul presence. And of course, the surviving men of Arthedain rallied to his banner, for in this great host that now assembled, they saw their chance to finally purge their lands of their menacing foe.
Yeah, because some forces did escape west there.
It was not only men and elves who answered Círdan's summons. An unlikely force emerged from the wild that even Círdan, in all his ancient wisdom, could not have anticipated. Hobbits.
Oh, the Hobbits came back?
The Shire sent forth its archers. They marched not for glory, but for the love of their lands, for the peace of hearth and home, and for a freedom that they would not see torn away.
Damn, dude.
Thus,
that's kind of, like, awesome, I'm not gonna lie. The Hobbits sent another small force to, like, try to show that they're, like, committed to this fight at least. Okay, that's good. At least they're sending fucking something. But look at this force they've assembled. That's massive. But again, why couldn't Gondor commit even a third of this sooner? You know, if they stationed even a third of this when it was available in Arnor, like, it probably wouldn't have fallen, like, near as easy, or at least they would have been able to hold probably a lot longer. Damn, dude.
Upon the shores of the north, a great host gathered, an alliance forged of hope, bound by friendship, and spurred forth by a love for the free lands of Middle-earth.
Humans, elves, and hobbits.
Unlike any the Witch King had yet faced, a union of powers, each with its own strength, bound by a single purpose, to drive the darkness from the north and to cast the shadow of Angmar into the abyss from whence it came. The great host made its way across the waters of the River Lune, but they did not march straight on to Fornost, for the Witch King did not cower in his grim fortress. Rather, he sought to meet them in the field, certain that these warriors, like all others before them, would be cast back into the river. And so they instead ventured north, into the hills.
That's very bold. This is a massive force.
They waited. Finally, the Witch King's armies assembled upon the plain, between the glittering waters
and the Witch
of
King is outnumbered too.
And the looming North Downs. The enemy had walked into their ambush. The call went out, and the host of the West descended, crashing into the unsuspecting ranks of Angmar as the roar of battle rose into the heavens.
Holy shit! Yeah,
The blackened
the Witch
banners
King
of
is fucked
Angmar
here.
soon faltered, Its iron ranks began to crumble beneath the overwhelming charge, and fear took root in the hearts of the Witch King's foul servants. The orcs and evil men began to fall back towards Fornost, knowing that the day was lost. But Arnor had learned the ways of war from his father well, and had personally led a cavalry force around the north
Holy shit,
of
there's
the
even
hills in
more, dude?
secret, intending to surprise the enemy with a cavalry charge from the rear. But when the enemy came into view, they were already falling back to Fornost. He knew he could not allow them to reach safety, forcing a costly assault upon the walls. So sensing his opportunity, he sounded the charge.
Yeah.
The Gondorian cavalry, led by
Harry, the
bold
retreating
Arnor
force,
and his household guard, came sweeping down unseen from the north and came upon their foe with gleaming steel as Kholds of Gondor and
So I don't even know if they're actually harrying. They're not harrying the retreating force there. They're holding them in place. So they're positioning themselves not to the rear of the enemy to run them down, but to the front to engage with and fight with them, which is risky for a cavalry, but it makes sense in this context. They're holding them in place so that this front line can be shattered, and then the infantry can just move in and just assault them from the rear and just envelop and destroy that entire enemy force in one fell swoop. Because yeah, if any of these guys get back to the city, to the fortress here, you're looking at a siege, and that could be very costly for the attackers, and it's also going to slow things down a lot. It's going to slow down the momentum, allow the Witch King to regain some more forces.
came upon their foe with gleaming steel as calls of Gondor and Osgiliath rang out in the turmoil. What had begun as retreat had become a rout as Angmar's army broke, scattering in blind panic.
Jesus.
In the chaos, the Witch King was able to rally a portion of his shattered forces and began to lead them to the north. His only thought now was to reach the cold safety of Khan Dum. But the relentless young Captain Arnor gave chase with his cavalry.
Jeez.
In that moment, the Witch King halted his retreat and appeared as a looming specter of death, black-robed, black-masked, mounted on a black steed that seemed to carry the very shadows of despair with it.
The Witch King's getting involved himself.
Cry that froze the blood of all who heard it. His eyes locked upon one man, the gallant young captain of Gondor. Arnor would not turn from his challenge, and so he prepared to charge, but no
Arnor is gonna
horse
get
could bear
murdered
the
here,
terror
dude.
of the Witch King's presence.
Like, yeah.
Arnor's steed reared in fear, fleeing from the battlefield, carrying its rider far from the enemy he sought to slay. And then, from the Witch King's throat, came a laugh, a sound that was not of this world, that sent ripples of fear through the hearts of all who were gathered there. He delighted in the fear he provoked, and knew that Arnor could not hope to defeat him. But his cruel laughter was cut short. Riding upon a pale horse as bright as moonlight itself, came Glorfindel, fresh from the hunt.
Oh my
No
God.
words passed between them, no clash of sword or spell. At the mere sight of the Elf Lord, the Witch King was filled by something he had not known for an age.
Fear. Yeah.
He turned and fled.
He actually
spurring
can
his
kill
dark
me. That
mount
elf is
into the
gonna
gloom.
mow me down, dude. Oh,
Arnor,
fuck.
in his rage, sought to pursue him, eager to regain his honor. But Glorfindel, with eyes that saw farther than any mortals could, stayed him. Arnor now rode back, but Glorfindel, looking into the gathering dark, said, "Do not pursue him. He will not return to this land. Far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of man will he fall." These words many remembered. Hence, a prophecy was born as the Witch King of Angmar was at last driven from the north. His power was broken, and the army of Angmar was no more. Arnor was free of the shadow, though the lands now lay in ruin, its people scattered and few.
And no king.
The light of its former glory was almost gone, but did not fade entirely. For even in the darkest of times, hope can endure.
Like, who would assume the mantle of kingship there? The wounds of war. Let's see.
The line of kings did not perish with Arvedwi, for it lived on in his son, Aranath.
Okay.
However, Aranath would not sit upon a great chair of carven stone, nor wield a scepter before the eyes of many. Instead, he sought to pass on the memory of what was lost and to guard what remained of the kingdom of his forefathers. Thus, the chieftains of the Dunedain were born, guardians of a lost kingdom that now only lived in the tales of past glory. The remaining Dunedain under his leadership became known as the Rangers of the North. Ever watchful, ever hidden, they were guardians, silent sentinels, moving in...
Okay, so they became the Rangers. Oh, shit, that makes a lot of sense. So they didn't ever... The kingdom fell apart, unfortunately. It just never regained its strength, but the former lineage and the former warriors of that kingdom just straight up committed themselves to keeping the land at least clean, you know, for the citizenry that still lives there. The Shire still exists there. They still are doing well for themselves, obviously. And then there are some small settlements that survive, such as like Bree and whatever, right? Whatnot, whatever have you. So yeah, keeping those people safe that resided in those lands, at least. That's, you know, admirable, I have to say. I didn't know that this is how the Rangers started.
Ever hidden, they were guardians, silent sentinels, moving in shadow, unseen by many inhabitants of the very lands they protected. Their tales were seldom told, their names scarcely known, for they carried no banners and sang no songs of their victories. The sons of the chieftains were not raised in the wild alone, but fostered in the ancient halls of Rivendell. There, beneath the wisdom of Elrond, they learned of mighty Númenor and of Elendil the Tall. They were taught the weight of their heritage and the burden that lay upon their shoulders. Elrond held a great deal of affection for all those who descended from the kings of old. For his twin brother Elros was the founder of Númenor. Elros the half-elven forsook immortality in order to be counted among men. It was he who founded Númenor and who established the bloodline of the kings of the Dunedain. Therefore, Elrond wished to honor his brother's legacy, ensuring that his memory endured. And it was in Rivendell, too, that the heirlooms of the Dunedain were kept. The ring of Barahir was recovered from the snowmen of Foroshel. The shards of Narsil...
Recovered in what way?
And yet waiting for the moment when they would be reforged. And the scepter of Anúminas, once the symbol of kingship, now lying in quiet reverence, waiting for a hand worthy to hold it once more. Now that the war was over, the Shire folk finally lived in peace once more. The troubles of the world seemed far from their quiet fields, and in the absence of the king, they chose their own Thane to lead them. Their lives, simple and joyful, bloomed in the calm that followed the fall of Angmar. Still, among some hobbits, a longing for the return of the king lingered, a faint and distant dream. But as the years rolled on, even that dream faded.
The kings were good to them, to be fair.
Until it was all but forgotten. Yet what is forgotten is not always lost. 1,000 years after Arvedwy's death, a king would emerge once more. From the ancient kings of Númenor, to kings of Gondor and Arnor, to the chieftains of the Dunedain, the line of kings would remain unbroken. And the last of this line, Aragorn, the 16th chieftain of the Dunedain,
that's a while, though,
would rise as King Elisar, sovereign of the reunited kingdom. Fornost and Anúminas would be rebuilt. The people of Arnor would prosper and live in peace, and the banners of the king would fly from the ramparts once more as the new world that emerged finally shed the shadow of the Angmar War.
That's awesome. What a great way to end it off there. Holy shit. Wow. Let's see here.
Thank you very much for tuning into Realms Unravelled. We would like to take this opportunity to light the beacons and call for aid. If you did enjoy this video, we would ask that you kindly click the like button below.
Of course.
Also, we would be very grateful if you would consider subscribing and clicking on the bell icon. And until next time, farewell, fellow explorers of Middle-earth.
Of course. Honestly, we're going to do that right now. Subscribe. There you go. There you have it. You got it, man. Easy work there. Holy shit. That was the Angmar War, the Witch King's 675-year-long war in Arnor. That was a great video. Really enjoyed that one, I have to say. Again, the use of, like, well, obviously the guy's voice. First off, great voice for narration. Did a fantastic job of that. The emotional, and again, like the emotional and theatrical bits mixed in with like the quotes from the actual books and whatnot to prove the point, to prove what exactly he's saying. I thought that was really good. The interactive maps, not interactive maps, but you know what I mean, like the animated maps to show like how their forces were moving, what happened, that was all fantastic to see. And again, the animated illustrations, love that shit. Music choices was on point as well. Really can't say anything, you know, bad about this. This was a fantastic production. I'm surprised he only has, well, just shy of 200,000 subscribers there. I think he should be a lot bigger. I think he deserves a lot more attention. And this video itself only got, I say only, but just shy of 600,000 views. I think it deserves 1 million at least, you know what I'm saying? So of course, if you guys enjoyed this, go check him out and go give him a sub, give him a like, guys. He did a fantastic job on this. If you guys enjoyed this reaction, hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, and of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. A big thank you to all of our members, of course. A big thank you to all of our members, all of our Hastati, our Triarii, our Principe, Dagenhart, and of course, our Prefects, Fear and Hobbit. I appreciate you guys. And yeah, without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.